Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Tyvis Powell, Jason Lloyd. Plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah!
Here we are.
It's Friday. Welcome to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Thank you so much for spending time with us. You get 90 minutes on YouTube today, 30 minutes on WKYC. How's everybody feeling on this Friday?
Well, just alive and well on a 4-2 weekend.
Looking spiff, bro.
Listen. This is a consultant, G. Bush. I come in and tell you why your construction company's losing money.
$1,000 an hour, G. Bush.
Just for
you guys are overspending on 2x4s.
Yeah,
I can tell you that right now.
People get paid to do something like that.
Yes.
These consultants. What is
That's what I'm
joke
doing
that
next.
is.
The
That's
consulting
when I
world
get fired, I'm
is
going to be
where
a consultant.
it's at.
That's where the money
It really is where it's at.
What a racket.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one big con,
Bull,
pretty
here's
much.
the thing. So here's how you ask yourself how you can dip in on this.
Yeah.
What do you know more than anything in the world?
Television shows.
I was going to
Baseball.
say radio.
Food.
I was going to say
radio.
You could be
a radio
sports radio
I should
consultant.
be a sports radio consultant.
All you
Let's
got to
face
do, Bull, is make a website and start an LLC.
The reality is that I would say roughly 90% of radio program directors
Don't know what they're
are
doing.
complete buffoons.
Yes.
And
They're stealing
they've
money.
never worked in radio, so they've never worked on the air.
Right.
So they don't know what the hell they're doing. They don't know how to spot talent. They're idiots. So I can do
Start
that.
a company, do
Let's
it next week, and
Let's
ride
do it.
into the sunset.
There it is.
This is a 4 o'clock game, right? Because it's West
It
Coast.
is. Yep.
So
I hate 4 o'clock
Well, I do too. I don't love them. That means we're 53 hours from kickoff. It just makes it longer for it to get here. A lot to talk about today on today's show. A lot to talk about. The quarterback situation continues to be a hot talker. What are they going to do? Are they going to do anything? Also, I noticed yesterday Derrick Henry's getting a lot of traction. Now, we mentioned him on the show here because the Titans seem to be in sell mode.
Yeah.
It seems like everybody in the league is interested in this guy. That scares me. It's going to ratchet the price up. I also saw the Ravens are said to be interested in him.
Yeah, I don't like
That'd
that.
be smart for them.
It'd be brilliant
I
for
do
them.
not like that.
Now, they could be doing two things here. They could be just saying, well, we know Cleveland needs a running back, and they're still super hot over Cleveland for sort of resetting the quarterback market with the Deshaun Watson contract. They might just be floating rumors out there just to make Cleveland have to pay more than they think they would otherwise have to pay to get him. I don't know.
I've already heard Dalvin Cook, too, says
Wants out.
The Jets want.
He hasn't done anything.
No,
so
he hasn't,
having
but he's
nothing
gone to
year.
the Jets already and said, I'd like to be moved. Yeah. Now, look, he would have been far more effective if Aaron Rodgers was playing because they would be two-dimensional.
Well, no, they are two-dimensional. Brees Hall's been excellent.
Yeah, well, Brees Hall's taking all the carries.
Right.
But I think that if you had a quarterback that could throw the football, you know what that does? It opens up the running game. It could be more room for him to eat. But I don't know. Would you guys be interested in him?
Sure, I've read a minimal at a nothing price.
Yeah,
I mean,
very
he hasn't
minimal.
done anything this
Sure.
year.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind
Yeah.
it.
Anything could be an upgrade over what they have right now, frankly.
I know you say Hunt's got 3 wheels. He's a tricycle out there.
And everyone gets so mad at me when I say that. It's like he has a useful role, right?
Yeah.
But I think everyone was so excited, like, Kareem's back. I'm like, guys, there's a lot of tread on those tires. Like,
Yeah.
he's averaging 3 yards a carry.
All right, but there's a space betwing he's what he was and he's useless, right?
Yeah, I didn't say
Yes,
he was
and
useless.
somewhere in the middle is
Yeah,
where he
yeah,
lives.
yeah.
You can get real far on a tricycle.
Hey, you remember the big wheels? Can he be a big wheel?
Yeah.
Big wheel.
Okay, a big wheel with a cool brake.
Those the goal line package and stuff like that, like, you want the ball in Kareem's
You can
hands.
argue he's picked up the most important yard this season.
Yeah.
That's true.
Because the difference between 4-2 and 3-3
Huge.
feels like a
Huge.
huge chasm. Okay, a lot to get to. But first, we got to say our first hello and good morning of the day to Mikey McNuggets.
What's up, guys? Busy show. We're going to jump right into things after we remind the good people of the world that FanDuel is unquestionably, undoubted, the #1 sportsbook in America. Right now, brand new customers get $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you place a single $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there is literally no better time to get in on the action than right now. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and much, much more. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL, an official partner of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. And yesterday we had Jordan Kessler submit a winning ticket of a nice little 3-part parlay on Thursday Night Football. He had the Buffalo money line, under 42.5 total points, and the Tampa Bay spread. He hit it, and he turned $19.5 into $111.
Attaboy.
Essentially 5-1 odds. So shout out to Jordan Kessler for winning. You could be the next winner if you join FanDuel as well. So with that, Jay, let's talk a little quarterback action.
Yeah.
Brissett, no calls, and Deshaun, will he be Deshaun again this year?
Let's go to Jason for the Brissett no calls, because we really haven't talked about that on the show. Yesterday we talked about the fact that we thought that they would be calling. What do you have on that?
I talked to Diana Rossini, who works with us at The Athletic. Asked Diana if she would reach out to Washington.
Very plugged in Washington, by the way, she is.
And she said, I already have, and Browns haven't called. Yeah. So that tells me Brissett's not happening. And I wrote that the other day. If you're going to make the Jacoby move, you make it now. Like, you call him Sunday night, Monday. You get him here Tuesday, pass a physical, get on the practice field Wednesday. He plays Sunday. That's the beauty of Jacoby. That's one of the big pluses of him. He's a plug-and-play guy. You trade for him Monday, he can play on Sunday. But the fact that they haven't called yet tells me they're not going to, and they're going to roll with what they've got.
Now, they could always, see more of P.J. Walker on Sunday that they've already seen and come to the conclusion that, this probably isn't going to be a long-term bridge.
But they should know that already. There's
that's what
nothing that should happen on that field Sunday that should sway you one way or the other. You know it. Now, the hope is, and I mentioned this before we started on the show, PJ's had, I think, 4 practices prior to this week. He had the full week of San Francisco, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And he had Wednesday last week before Deshaun came back Thursday, Friday. So he's had 4 practices, essentially. Right. And now with a full week this week, maybe he can be incrementally better. But you know what he is. There should be nothing that happens on that field Sunday that says, oh, my God, can you believe that? We got to get somebody else in
The couple
here.
of practices he had this week isn't going to turn him into this, all of a sudden perfect answer at quarterback.
It's obviously a small sample size this season, and in his career he hasn't played a ton. But he's been the worst quarterback in the NFL this year. Not amongst the worst. He's been the worst quarterback in the league. So incrementally better is not good enough.
Agreed.
And if the Browns don't do anything to address this position, which so far they have done absolutely nothing, obviously, but sit on their hands, it's a disgrace. I have defended Kevin Stefanski, and to some degree I've defended Andrew Berry. If they sit on their hands and have to go with PJ, this idea that, we're gonna get Deshaun back here, they have to do business as if Deshaun Watson's not going to play the rest of the year. And if he does, fine. If he can, great. But you have to do business right now as if he's not going to play, because you sat him for a month and he looked completely useless when he went on the field. So what's another couple of weeks going to do?
Well, it's a 4 to 6 week injury, and he said yesterday that's just a framework. That doesn't mean it's necessarily the case. The only way that this makes sense to me is if you believe he's coming back for Baltimore. And then because you're 4-2, you have 2 NFC opponents between now and then. If you feel like, hey, if we go 1-1 on these, whatever, we can beat Arizona at home with P.J. Walker, and we get him back for Baltimore. I just don't know how you can count on that. What have you seen that makes you think you can count on that, and that he can survive if he does come back for Baltimore? What assurance do you have that he's going to be able to play the rest of the year?
To that point, if you listen closely to what Deshaun's saying, he's not giving any indication of when he'll be back.
No, none.
In fact, here's what we know for sure he has said this year. I don't think I'll be 100% at any point this year.
Right.
Can we play the clip from Bernie yesterday? This is Bernie Kosar, who had the exact same injury, talking about the likelihood Deshaun Watson returns to 100% this year. Let's play it.
It's a micro tear. It's a micro tear. It's not getting better. So Deshaun's problem is whether he even waits 3 or 4 weeks, Jay, when he comes back, they're going to jam him into the ground, and it'll probably still become a rotator cuff surgery that is a full rotator in December and January that would inhibit him being ready in August of next year. So it's not about his pain. It's not about him not wanting to play. You could see he wanted to play. I could see, actually, me and him talking the coaches into him, saying, hey, I'm capable of playing. I can make the plays. But flat out, when P.J. Walker in the 4th quarter had to hit that fade on 2nd and 10 and drop it over the corner head before the safety killed him, P.J. Walker's 100% arm was barely strong enough to make that throw that helped the Browns win the game.
Yeah.
When Deshaun was rolling left, It wasn't because he wasn't tough. It wasn't because he was turning it down. His shoulder involuntary switched and turned it down and didn't allow him to execute the throw.
That
And it
is the
wasn't
thing
even
that you talk
painful.
about, that involuntary shutdown.
It's shut
the
it
muscle
down.
knows that
Yeah.
if you exert, you're going to have extreme pain.
Right.
So
and you
essentially they
can't
have
give
no
it.
chance.
And it's shut down, so he has no chance.
No
That's
chance for him to be
Exactly.
100% this year. That's out the window.
Correct.
Right? I mean,
and
that's
if it's again, I haven't seen the MRI, but if it is a micro tear, it's not guaranteed that heals in 6 to 8 weeks.
That's kind of where we've been operating all along. You know, when we reached out to the surgeons that we reached out to, they said that this is one of those deals that there's a better chance that you completely tear it if you keep using it. And the definition that we looked up from the AMA and the surgical board that they used said that, you know, this is something that it's almost like it's got to be a complete shutdown for that length of time, and he can't do that midseason.
I did a blog about 3-4 weeks ago. I said, listen, if you're expecting to see the Deshaun Watson that you wanted to see in 2023, it's not going to be happening this year. There's too many hits that quarterbacks take on a daily or weekly basis that he's not going to be able to take. He didn't even get driven into the ground. He kind of got pushed and he landed, he put his arm down, and kind of hurt his shoulder more. But for me, I look at this as a body of work for the front office and the coaching staff. It's just not about what you do on the field and how you call plays. It's about what you do with your roster management. The roster management was flawed. Even back when they were Baker in 2021, when they went through this thing every single week, is Baker hurt? Was he not hurt? You know what happened with that. You go back to next year, you got Deshaun Watson out for 11 games, but you still had people saying, "Hey, are you going to upgrade at defensive tackle? Are you going to give us some receivers?" They did nothing. We talked about it. Linebackers, receivers, and defensive linemen. They did nothing on that year, and we talked about it, and we coined the gentleman's punt that year. We come back this year, they did upgrade the defensive line. They did try to do some things at wide receiver, but you sit here at 4-2, you're in a position where you could go 5-2 and possibly even have a game set up against the Cardinals where you can be 6-2 in the driver's seat, so to speak. But you look like you don't have any intentions on upgrading for P.J. Walker. Your running backs are dinged up and hurt. We haven't heard anything on the front as far as running backs are concerned. And most people still think, Mary Kay Gavin says, hey, we need a receiver.
So you can't fix every position in the season.
But you can pick one.
Well, you can pick one, but like it's unfair to bring up all the you can't fix everything in the middle of the season.
But
by
teams have
fixing the
injuries.
quarterback, you might fix the wide receiver problem.
But we haven't heard rumblings about any of it.
Well, it doesn't mean it's not going to happen. But if they don't do it, if they don't do anything to address the team needs, yeah, that's I got a
Back
big problem.
to Bernie's point, how confident are you guys, if you had to put a percentage on it, that we'll see the 100% Deshaun Watson at some point this year?
Zero.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm exactly the same spot.
Yeah.
And because of that, I don't know that. I imagine they're assessing the same thing inside the building, and they've got much more information than we have.
Of course.
Right.
They might have doctors telling them, saying, "Look, is it a micro tear? Yeah, it's not extreme. Give him 3 to 4 weeks of complete inactivity, no throwing the football." And I think he got 100%. Deshaun Watson. Maybe that's the case, and we just don't have that information.
But they already did that. It didn't work.
No, I'm talking about from Sunday's game. You're right. They tried that, and it didn't work. I think they were fooled by the notion that he said he was ready to go. Bernie's point on the rollout interception is so dead on. You guys have all had some kind of an injury before, and you know that you have a limit that you can reach to before the pain really kicks in. That pain is the message to the brain, stop doing what you're doing.
Right.
You're going to make this worse. And Bernie's felt that pain. He knows it. We've all felt it. You don't even think about it. I love that Bernie said it's an involuntary response. The muscle saying, no, we can't go where you want to go right now, so we're not going to.
Yeah.
And if you just take a little bit of sauce, as Bernie calls it, off the ball, those completions become interceptions.
Yes.
I am for putting him on IR, doing it today, so the clock starts for the Seattle game, and you get him back. Guys, even if you go 1-3, look, they're 4-2. They should be able to manage going 1-3. You're still 5-5 with 7 to go.
It's irrelevant anyway. He can't play.
Well, we don't know. No, I'm operating under the assumption that the doctors could say Shut him down for 4 weeks, and by
Right.
shut him down, I mean shut him down.
No, but what I'm saying is whether debating whether shutting him down and what their record's going to be is irrelevant, because the idea that he can play at any kind of a winning level in the next 4 weeks is ridiculous.
Right.
And what's going to happen if they don't put him on IR? You're right, they should put him on IR. What's going to happen is he's going to convince them to play again because he's a player.
Right, that's why I like the IR option. That takes that off the table.
I just don't think they're going to do it.
Obviously, they feel he can be back within the 4 weeks, or they would.
Well, they thought that once, and they were dead wrong.
Well, and everyone wants to keep blaming Kevin and Andrew for this. It goes a little higher than that, guys. Like, there's someone else writing the checks who wants to see him out there too.
Trust me, he's not out of our bullseye.
So everyone says, I can't believe Kevin keeps running him out there. I can't believe Andrew wants to play him.
Do you have some sort of information?
No, not this time. But I know with Baker, it was all ownership.
Sure.
Like, ownership was one pushing him out there. And
Wait a
again,
second. So you're saying Jimmy made Stefanski play Baker?
I'm saying ownership.
Baker wanted to play.
I'm saying ownership wanted to see Baker on the field because they had to make a decision on whether or not to pay him.
Right.
And I've said that 100 times.
Yeah.
Like, they had to decide what they were going to do with the contract. Are we going to pay this guy or not? And he got hurt in the second game of the season. So based on the information they had up until that point, they weren't going to pay him. They wanted to see another year out of him. That's part of the reason why he kept playing.
That's what dumb owners do.
But now, in my opinion, you have to protect the asset because you have him under control.
Yeah,
you're
there's
paying him
a
all that
key
money.
difference.
So there's two ways to look at this. I've got all this money invested in him. I want him out there, or I've got all this money invested in him. We have to protect the asset, shut him down.
Yeah.
And it seems to be they're doing run him out there more than protect the asset at this point.
I think a lot of people are conflating two different things. One is if he goes out there, is he too hurt? Is the pain too great that he can't play? And the other one is even if he doesn't feel it's hurt, he still can't effectively throw the football.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can't effectively throw the football, it doesn't matter if you sit him a whole year. Like if he comes back and it doesn't hurt and he can't complete 5 to 10 yard passes, that does you no good. You does neither one of you good.
It's really a worst case from the sense of if it was a Nick Chubb injury, if he blew out his knee, had to have surgery, you know he's done for the year.
Out of sight, out of mind.
And now, okay, what do we do going forward? We know Deshaun's not an option.
Right.
There is so much ambiguity with this, and there's so much of
They don't know how to act.
it puts him in a really difficult spot
Let me ask you
because
this,
you don't want to put him
Yeah.
on IR if he can be back for that fourth game.
I
you
wonder
know?
if the doctors actually think there's an ambiguity here, or if this is just football people turning it into that.
I mean, if the doctor said
or
shut
Jimmy
him,
Haslam turning it into that.
I have to believe if the doctor said shut him down, put him on IR, they would.
Yeah, and the reason that I'm just a little concerned about the doctor side of it is originally he was cleared to play in the game, the Baltimore game after Tennessee. That's somewhat troubling to me, particularly now that this injury has.
That part of it doesn't make any sense.
It makes no sense at all to me, but we do know that he was cleared. He was told by team doctors, you're good to go.
Yeah.
I want to, before we move on from this topic, I want to question all of you guys, and Jay, I'll start with you. Everything has a clock to it. Mm-hmm. There's a window. Mm-hmm. And we saw what the Rams did with their trade, and they went all in, and they got the Super Bowl.
Yep.
So now fans just have to understand that there's going to be a period of uncompetitive, not competitive football.
It actually is not true.
No, they're doing
Rams are
very
pretty
well.
good.
You know how you can dig yourself out of that mistake? Find
Puka Nacua.
Puka Nacua in the fifth round.
And that's why I
almost
never
sixth
worry
round.
about the cap, because smart teams with smart GMs can find players to make up for the guys who
We
gotta
don't
let
have
go.
that track record here.
We
so
don't.
we can't lean on that.
Yeah.
But my question to you, Jay, as they're looking at, because the ownership and even general manager and head coach to a certain extent have to look at the broader picture moving out. What is the window of opportunity to really be a Super Bowl contender? Is that window still on the upside, or has it hit its peak and is now beginning to close? Because that's what it does. It opens, it closes.
Right.
It opens, it closes. So if they think that it's at its peak or it's on its way down, you can understand the urgency to do it this year.
Right.
Because you almost
No.
can't push it off all the way to next year if you think that because of the cap and because of the lack of
But if he
draft
can't
picks-
play, he can't play.
I know, but I'm asking Jay, do you think that is playing into the equations here and they're feeling like it's urgent, it's got to be this year because the window is at its peak now?
No, I don't think they feel that way because that's why they're protecting this $34 million that they have to roll over to next year. Where if you felt like this is it, then you just exhaust the $34 million now, and then whatever happens next year happens. And I think they're trying to be proactive and roll some of this over. But there are going to be, I'll go back to what Joe Burrow said. If I'm on the team, our window's open. Right. And you have to feel that way if you have a franchise quarterback. Now, obviously, Deshaun hasn't really demonstrated that since he's been here. But you would like to say, theoretically, the window's 3 more years because Deshaun's under control for 3 more years. But I don't know realistically.
If he does at some point play back at the level we hope he does,
then you have
it will be open for those years.
Does it change because you've been pretty optimistic that he is going to return in.
I'm not as confident right now.
Houston, Deshaun.
This is the least confident I've been.
Okay.
Yes.
G?
My confidence is taking a hit because of everything going into it. Like, I was talking to Mikey the other day. A lot of people don't realize that, there's a lot of things that go into being who you are. And I think a lot of people in our fan base, because we've taken L's so much, we're dismissive about the actual life things that go on in a player's life to a point where they may never play the way they played before.
Right.
If you think about it, I mean, when you go through all these changes, he got here, you got to realize Browns didn't draft him. So usually when you draft somebody, there's a cachet that comes with it because we took you. You were one of our own.
But really, if you think about what they gave up to get him, it was way more than a draft pick.
But
they're way more into this guy than just one draft pick.
But here's the thing: that's the organization. We're talking about the fan base,
right?
So you win
the fan base over by winning games.
So here's the thing: if you've already been suspended and you ain't been on the field, right?
Yeah.
If you already came with the allegations and the fans are kind of upset about that, you only played 3 games. You only played one of the games well this year, so your play isn't all that great. And now you're day to day with an injury.
So
you're
not winning them over.
So you're not winning. Actually, you done lost some people.
Sure.
Because we're just seeing you play and you hurt.
Mike, I know you got to read. I want to ask one question of Jason that I think is pertinent, and you're the guy to answer it. Deshaun was asked some pretty crazy questions this week. Like, are you divorcing the Browns? You want to divorce the Browns?
Yeah.
Like, I thought that was like a little aggressive, but he did try to dispel the notion that there's 2 camps and there's factions. Is there, in your mind? Do you feel that there's any friction right now between teammates and Deshaun, management and Deshaun, or Deshaun to teammates and Deshaun to management?
I don't have any evidence to say yes that there is. I'm sure that there's. I said frustration a couple weeks ago and everyone went nuts. I'm sure from his vantage point, I'm sure there's a lot of frustration right now because he said yesterday, I worked my ass off to get back. I worked so hard to get back and now I have this injury.
Right.
So I don't know that it's divided lines, and it will. I watched it with LeBron and the Cavs. It does get to that point where there's a clear break, and they're over here and they're over here.
He's unmovable, though.
No, he is, and I don't think it's at that point. I don't think. Maybe something changes. Maybe that answer changes in 3 months or 6 months. But yeah, he's not going anywhere because of that contract. They can't. It's literally impossible to move him because of the dead cap hit right now. If they did try to do something with him, so he's not going anywhere. If anything. They're clearing out the Brown side of it because he's going to be here. But I don't think it's at that point. I don't think it's. But I do think, sort of what G was saying, he's had, and every time I say this, I preface it with,
some of it's self-inflicted.
Yes, but the emotional that he's been through and the mental that he's been through the last couple of years, and then to be able to finally get back on the football field and do what you love, and now to not play up to your standard, and now to have this injury on top of it. And for the first time, it is like he was beloved at Clemson. He was beloved in the NFL.
Yeah.
And he went from that to public enemy number 1. He is the number 1 villain in the NFL. And for whatever reason, he just feeds into it because he seeks it out on social media.
Well, he said yesterday
that. I see it all.
Everything.
And that's the worst thing he could do.
I agree.
It just makes it worse. So I have no doubt he's not in a good space right now just because of everything he's already been through and everything that's now happening to him. It's a tough situation for him.
It's a real mental test,
absolutely,
for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought up the social media stuff because we touched on the show yesterday. I just think he needs to unplug.
I said that, yeah.
What good comes from you
just
seeing all the criticism and all the darts? Tune that out.
Yeah.
Do what you do and make your number 1 priority has to be returning to Houston, Deshaun.
He has to somehow find a way to find peace.
Yes.
And LeBron, I'm not comparing Deshaun to LeBron, but LeBron went through this when he went to Miami, and he became the villain.
He tried to embrace being the villain.
And it didn't work.
Fail.
He loves to be loved. He needed to be loved. It lasted for 1 year, and he's like, I can't do this. And eventually, he got it all back.
Yeah, but it's going to be Deshaun will
is
never
much
be
different.
loved.
Yeah,
this
it
is
is
Maybe
much
in
different.
Cleveland if he plays well. He's
Listen,
never going to be loved outside of
He
Cleveland.
takes his team to a Super Bowl. It fixes everything
I mean,
here.
Yeah.
No one
And who
talks
cares about national?
Nobody talks about Kobe. Nobody talks about Ben and all the stuff that they've
Right.
been
Winning
through.
a race is a lot of stuff.
But he's still in the muck right now.
Yeah, he
he's
is.
not even starting the climb yet.
All right, Mike.
We got to do a really quick topic before we bring in Tim Couch. Before we get to that, Jace Medical is the place you need to go if you are ever in need of emergency antibiotics in a pinch. The Jace case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use, giving you peace of mind so you're not just hoping to have access to that kind of medication in an emergency. Jace Medical makes sure you have that medication in hand, and it's simple. They handle everything from the online evaluation to the licensed pharmacy medication delivery and ongoing consultation. So don't get caught prepared, especially with promo code LOCKEDON. You get $20 off those life-saving antibiotics at jasemedical.com. That is JASE medical.com. We got to do this quickly before we bring in Tim, but Jed Wills, guys, was limited in practice on Wednesday, did not practice on Thursday. His status is TBD for Sunday. Jack Conklin's out. DeJuan Jones is filled in admirably. If Jed Wills can't go, it is James Hudson who will have to line up at left tackle for P.J. Walker and protect his blind side. I can't believe I'm asking this after all we've talked about Jed Wills throughout the season, but G. Bush, how big of a loss would it be for the Browns on Sunday if Jed Wills is unable to suit up?
I mean, the problem is Jed Wills. You know, he's played a little. He's played a little bit better the last couple of weeks. But the guy behind him, Hudson, is you don't want no parts of that. It's a shame that you say, man, I'd like to have Jedrick Wills. I'm even when I looked at it like this, I'm trying to think if Luke Whippler, who could they put out there? Like, because I don't want to put James Hudson out there. Jed has played a little bit better. You know, he still has some mistakes out there at left tackle, but this is another reason why, you know, I wouldn't have Deshaun Watson being out there, especially if you got a left tackle that is not as good at pass blocking as Jedrick Wills, and he's had his problems. So it'll be something. We're gonna find out what kind of depth they have. I think they might have to actually get creative a little bit and move some guys around. I don't know if they say, hey, let's put DeJuan Jones at left tackle. I doubt it. He's doing good on the right-hand side. But for me, it's a big deal. It's another guy that you got to find to get ready right now. You got to worry about the snap count when you're talking about left tackles playing in that hostile environment, not hearing checks and different things like that. And another reason it's kind of tough is now you're going to have Joe Bitonio not having that communication with a guy who he's never played next to. You know, he's going to be tapping him on the shoulder. Hey, Joe, what I got on this play? Hey, tapping him on the shoulder. Is it a double team right here to the next level? Hey, what is this on again?
We talked about that when DeJuan made his first start. Wyatt was in his ear the whole game, and it ended up affecting Wyatt's play at right guard. You could easily see the same.
Especially when you're doing twists, Texas, and trying to, you know, pick up blitzes. That's the big part, especially when you got a quarterback that's going to hold the ball a lot longer than P.J. Walker. So it's a thing. It's definitely a thing.
Yeah,
I don't think it's a big deal. I mean, Jedrick Wills sucks ass, and no offense.
I think it's a big deal.
No offense, but he sucks ass.
I mean,
a couple things
your
on that.
the backup is bad.
You know what this reminds me of? Junior high, you got a girlfriend, you think you're going to upgrade for the dance. You've been talking to a girl that you say is a lot prettier with more personality. Then you find out just before you get ready to ask her that your buddy asked her and she said yes. And now you're looking at your old girlfriend like, you know, she's not so bad after all. To me, Jed Wills has been our punching bag. And for part of the season, I think rightfully so. However,
He's back to average.
the last 2 games, he's graded out very well for whatever that's worth. I'm not going to use it to help my case here because they're dead to me. But just the eye test, he's done a significantly better job. And I asked somebody on the panel earlier this week or last week, do we think that he finally he reached the tipping point where his pride said, okay, enough of this, and he's gone to another level? To me, that's what it looks like. He's been, boy, you have to admit, the last 2 weeks, he has not been
better.
the deficiency that he was early in the season.
I'm not buying that James Hudson couldn't be just as good. We haven't seen him that much either. I mean, I know everybody remembers that Pittsburgh game where he was particularly bad, but I just don't think it's that big a deal in the end. They survived without Joel Bitonio a week, and they won against a better team in San Francisco. And he's a much better player than Jedrick Wills. I just don't, yes, I'd rather have Jedrick Wills even with his deficiencies. I just don't think the difference between the two is that big a deal. Their offense has got all kinds of problems. I think
You're
that's
being awfully quiet over
least
there.
of their
I'm
problem.
just going back to my freshman year homecoming, and the girl I took to the dance took her to Chi-Chi's. And then we got to the dance. She didn't dance with me all night. She was with another dude all
Maybe if
night.
you'd taken her to a nice restaurant.
There was a group of
Chi-Chi's.
us. It was the Ohio State game that Robert Smith ran against USC, was on the TV at Chi-Chi's.
Wow.
And we get to the dance, and she danced. I won't use names. She danced with this other dude all night, and I sat in the corner drinking punch.
Wow, you still have PTSD over
I
that.
do.
So I brought up some bad memories.
Freshman year
okay, let's
homecoming.
snap
Hey,
out of it
what
and get
happened?
to Jed Wills. Yeah,
That's where I got broke.
she ended up marrying him. What's your take on this? Because you watch him very closely, and you see he's been on an upward trajectory.
I think it's a drastic step back from Jed Wills to James Hudson.
Yeah.
I do. And, I was the one screaming Jed's average, and then he was absolutely horrible the first couple of games. I don't think James Hudson's average.
Do your eyes tell you the same thing that ours sort of do? Is that he's improved the last couple of weeks?
He's been better, for sure. And that's like the guy that I was trying to defend. We've finally seen it the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
That's the guy I was trying to defend over the summer of he's not as bad as we make him out to be. He's not elite by any means, but I always thought he was average. And then he came out this year. I don't know what that was the first couple of games.
No one does.
But the last couple of games is back to sort of that he's acceptable. He's at least passable there. Yeah. And Hudson.
Now we want to go to the dance with him, and he might not be available.
Don't go to Chi-Chi's.
The last thing you
Don't
need,
take him to Chi-Chi's.
the last
Chi-Chi,
thing-
hey, R.I.P. Chi-Chi's. That place was great, man.
fried ice cream.
Oh, that was
that
great.
Chili's?
It was great. No, that was Chi-Chi's.
Okay.
Fried
Yes.
ice cream is
Yeah.
Chi-Chi's, yeah.
All right. We have a read first, or do we just bring Tim right in?
It's a real quick read, but we're going to remind the good people that at 12:30, we hop over from YouTube to Channel 3 on
Yeah.
WKYC. You can watch if you're not in the Cleveland market by downloading the WKYC Plus app or the WKYC app on your smartphone. You can watch 30 minutes of brand new, never before seen or talked about content about the Browns and Seahawks upcoming game on Sunday, including some pre-written headlines and a top 5 players draft, which I promise you is going to be very contentious. So with that, let's welcome in our QB1. It is the one and only Tim Couch. What's up, Tim?
What's up, guys?
Tim, what do you make of the whole? I'm sure you've been following it from Lexington. What do you make of the Deshaun Watson roller coaster that has now taken us to the point where at least he was ruled out early this week, and we know it's going to be PJ?
Yeah, it's kind of a weird deal. It's so back and forth. And I think it's pretty rare you see, because I think he's been cleared, right, by the doctors. The doctor said he was cleared.
He was
as far as what I've read.
Yeah, he was cleared the day after the injury.
Right.
We don't know how, but
Yeah, exactly. So it's weird that, you get cleared by the doctors and you don't see a guy, out there, but, only Deshaun really knows how his body feels. So, I've been through those kind of injuries, and I know that, it gets in your head a little bit where, I'm not 100%. I know I'm not able to make the throws that I'm capable of making. So it's, it's a tough deal. It's frustrating for the fans to, you want him out there. He's such a good player, and you have, so much of the offense revolves around what Deshaun brings to the table, and not having him out there is such a step back. So, you want him out there. It's tough, but hopefully they can get it figured out. Deshaun can get healthy and get back out on the field soon.
Tim, let me ask you this question. We were talking about the mental psyche, especially at quarterback, as the guy that's supposed to be the leader, as the guy that everybody looks to and is supposed to be the captain of the team. One of the times that I always remember is, when you were playing for the Browns, how many times you got sacked, and when you got injured, the one time, I think it was your shoulder, they booed you, right? And how were you able? First of all, did that hurt your mental psyche that your home fan was booing you, the home crowd was booing you? And two, how did that affect your psyche moving forward, that you were injured and people may have not thought that you were injured that much, or they were even upset for the simple fact that you were injured? What's your thought process in that, and how it kind of juxtapose how Deshaun Watson seems a little irritated that people are questioning him being injured?
Yeah, definitely. So, with my injury, when that happened to me, it was a concussion. So I got knocked out on I think it was a Sunday night game. We were playing the Ravens at home. and we were getting beat. We were playing bad in the game, but that was the year we went to the playoffs, actually. So, I was having a good year, but in that game we weren't playing well on offense, and I got hit in the head, got knocked out. And, I don't remember the fans necessarily booing. I was kind of out of it. But, I just remember after the game, they put microphones in my face, which I definitely should not have been speaking to the media.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why they put me out there like that. I certainly wouldn't have said the things that I said if they would have given me, a day to cool off. I would have handled it much better. But in that moment, you've just been knocked out of a game. You've got a concussion. The fans are booing. It just feels like the weight of the world's coming down on you, and you get frustrated. And I said things that I definitely regretted. But for Deshaun, I saw where you guys were talking about. Deshaun said he sees everything. Like, that is awful for a quarterback. Like, I can't believe I didn't play in the social media era where we had to listen to people on Twitter and Instagram and all this kind of stuff, but I know if I did, that I wouldn't be reading that kind of stuff, and I wouldn't be listening to what people were saying. And, you really just have to focus on what the people inside your locker room are talking about and have the belief of your teammates and your coaches. But to go out there and say you're listening to what the media is saying and what the fans are saying, on social media and all that kind of stuff, I think it only hurts you mentally. Like, it's how do you have the confidence in yourself after reading that kind of stuff? It's very difficult. People can say, I can block it out. I just want to, but you really can't. That stuff affects you. When the fans are booing, people are complaining, they're questioning your toughness. They're questioning, do you want to be out there? You're making this much money. Are you just content with all the money you've made now? You don't even really want to play. You hear all those things. That's difficult as a player. And I don't know why he would want to see that, but, each guy's a little different, so I don't know. I would have went the opposite route of that one.
Tim, first of all, Bernie was here in studio just gushing about how much he loves you yesterday. He's your biggest fan, no doubt. He loves you. He was talking about all the injuries you played through. I think there's a major flaw in sports in general, but especially in football. You guys, when you're playing, you're young. You're great athletes. Sometimes guys like me who did not play, we can be dismissive of guys, careers who maybe weren't great, whatever. Guy, like, I'll knock Jedrick Wills because I don't think he's that good. But I know down deep when I'm thinking about it rationally, just to get to the NFL, even if you play for 2 years, Dustin Fox, who I did a show with for 12 years, he played in the league for 3 years. There's a million guys out there that would kill to play in the NFL for 3 years. We shouldn't scoff at anybody's career. So there's a pressure to play. In the NFL, there's outside of guys like Watson and a few other guys, there's not a lot of guaranteed money. So there's the pressure to make money. There's a pressure to take care of your family when you know that maybe by 30, you don't know what the hell you're going to do with the rest of your life, okay? But I think it is imperative for the doctors and the coaches to be better than that. Like, there are times probably you played, and I understand why you played. And there are times where Bernie played, and I understand why Bernie played. But I think there had to be somebody that said, Tim, you can't play. You can't. I'm doing it. This is what's best for you. And I know that's easy for me to say as a non-player. But I feel like organizations do this all the time. Well, we got to win. We need Deshaun Watson. If Deshaun Watson can't play at a winning level, then what's the point? You're just hurting him and hurting the team anyway. I think it's better than it was when you were playing and when Bernie was playing, but it's still not good enough. I know I rambled for a while. Fair, unfair, what do you think?
No, I think that's fair. It's certainly different than especially when Bernie played and when I played. The trainers and the coaches, they were going to do anything to get you back out on the field. Just if you could get out there and you could play, you were going. And my mindset when I was a player was, I'm going to play, unless I have a broken bone or I just had surgery, like I'm going to play through any injury that I can play through. And it was just kind of that mindset that we had, and even though doctors were saying, hey, you probably shouldn't play, you're not 100%, like you still want to be out there on the field. You just feel an obligation, or I felt a very strong obligation to, my teammates and my coaches and in the fans as well as that I need to be out there. I need to be under center. They're paying me a lot of money to play this position. I need to be accountable no matter how I feel. If I'm sick, if I'm injured, I wanted to be out there. And I know most guys have that type of mindset. And, the Deshaun thing has been handled, in my opinion, pretty poorly as far as, the communication with the training staff, the coaches, and Deshaun. They're all kind of saying little different things, and so it ultimately comes down to Deshaun. He knows his body way better than any of us do, any of the trainers do, any of the coaches do. He knows if he's capable of going out there and playing. And from what I saw when he was out on the field against Indianapolis, he did not look like he was ready to play football. I think he may have rushed it a little bit. He may need a few more weeks because he didn't play well while he was out there. He was throwing interceptions. The ball didn't look like it had a whole lot of velocity on it. So I just hope he can get himself healthy and get back out on the field and and get back to that form. Hopefully that what he was in Houston. That's what we all want to see. That's what we paid him to be here for. So hopefully he can get back to that soon.
Tim, we have spent a lot of time on Deshaun Watson this week, and probably justified, but we do have a game this Sunday against Seattle. P.J. Walker's quarterback won here, and he is going to lead an offense that just scored 39 points, into a pretty tough environment to play in. As a quarterback on the road who's not a traditional starter, what does Coach Stefanski and Walker have to figure out as far as either in-game adjustments, audibles? Like, how does a backup quarterback handle that environment on the road, especially in Seattle where the 12th man's as crazy as any fan base in the country?
Yeah, that's an extremely tough place to go play a game. I played a road game there as well, and it's just so loud. So, to me, especially for a backup, communication is key. How are you going to communicate at the line of scrimmage? Because they're not going to be able to hear you more than likely on most plays. So, you got to have your hand signals and everything. Everyone has to be on the same page. There's probably extra meetings going on between the quarterback and the wide receivers this week about, hand signals, just getting up in front of the team and in the meeting room and going through those signals, making sure everyone is on the same page, and then you're using a silent count, so the offensive line, everyone has to be on the same page and communicating and, where the blitz is coming from, who's sliding to who, how are we going to pick these guys up? There's just a lot that goes into it, especially when you got a quarterback who hasn't started many games in this league, started many games with this team, and you're going on in a tough environment on the road like that, trying to communicate those things is extremely difficult for a starter. A guy who's seasoned and been in the league for a long time, much less a guy who hadn't played very often, especially within this system.
This is a stupid question, but PJ, I mentioned earlier in this, I preface all my questions that they're stupid, but he had 4 practices that I can count prior to this week. He had the week of San Francisco 3. And he had last Wednesday before Deshaun came back Thursday, Friday. So he's had 4 practices. How much does practice matter in a game week preparation when you're thrust into a situation like he was last week, coming in early without a lot of reps, as opposed to this week where you have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? I'm not saying he's going to be Deshaun out there, but I wonder if we can see at least some sort of incremental improvement in his play just because he knows the game plan and he takes all the first-team reps all week long.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. I think obviously you're getting more reps. You're getting all those walkthrough reps as the first team guy. When you're the backup quarterback, the first team, the starter is out there going through all those walkthroughs throughout the week where you're going through very important stuff in those walkthroughs where you're talking about blitzes and side adjustments and how you're going to handle that. When you're the backup, you're just standing behind the huddle, kind of going through those mental reps. What would I do here? How am I going to do this? But when you're up there and it's live and you're the one having to make those calls and those checks, you start to get more comfortable with that because you've done it in practice. You know what to expect when the game comes on Sunday. So, I think it makes a big difference, especially like I said, and those walkthroughs really help. The red zone practice as well. You're getting those red zone and those third down reps in practice that you normally only get a couple of if you're the backup. So just getting those extra reps and really understanding, what the defense is going to try to do to you in certain situations. And also just the mental part of it going into the game, knowing that you're going to be the starter. You're not wondering if, is Deshaun going to make it through this whole game? Am I going to have to come in? What's the situation going to be like if I'm thrust into the game like he was last week? So, you just feel more comfortable going into it as a starter. You know what's expected of you as a starting quarterback. And then certainly that preparation of having those practices and being the guy all week long certainly helps the quarterback get ready for those moments.
Tim, when there is a backup quarterback in a game, is this a thing? Do they ever say, for instance, if you're the starter, you may have a different progression than a backup has, right? Or maybe, as a backup, they only ask you to read one side of the field. Or if they don't let you audible. Are there any, parameters or guardrails that Coach Stefanski would be looking at giving P.J. Walker in order for him to play faster or the team to be more efficient, especially when you're trying to check at the line of scrimmage?
Yeah, I think you simplified a little bit, especially for a guy who hasn't played a whole lot, started a lot of games. You don't want to give him too much, especially at the line of scrimmage. You don't want to go up there with 2 or 3 plays called and have him doing a lot of checks, a lot of run checks, a lot of run to pass checks, those kind of things. You really want to, it's the starters, those are the guys you want to throw all that information at. These kind of, when you got a backup quarterback like this who's going to be starting a game, in my opinion, it's best to say, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to make it very simple for you. We're going to get the football out of your hand first and foremost. We're not going to take negative plays. We're not going to hold on to the ball. We're not going to take sacks. We're going to do a lot of 3-step stuff. We're going to give you some screen game. We want to get the football out of your hand. And when a quarterback sees the ball completed, it just kind of builds momentum and confidence. It's like a great shooter in basketball when they're struggling and all of a sudden they get to the free throw line, they see a couple shots go in. Next thing you know, they heat up a little bit. And it's very similar for a quarterback as well. Just to see the ball completed, you start feeling more confident. You start getting in a little bit more of a rhythm. So I think those kind of things are very important for a quarterback who's making one of his very few starts that he's made in the league. Also, some play action helps quite a bit. Getting the ball out to the tight end, crossing routes, little check downs over the middle. Just making sure that he's playing fast. I think that's the biggest thing. Not trying to ask too much, not giving him these big full field reads where he's out there trying to go from one side of the field to the other. Just 1, 2. If it's not open, check it down or run. Just make it simple for him like that. And I'm sure that's kind of what the game plan will be this week.
Tim, thanks a bunch, man. We'll see you next week. Enjoy the game on Sunday.
All right. Appreciate it, guys. All right. Have a good weekend.
Former Browns quarterback Tim Couch. It is some interesting points that he made about how you would sort of streamline your offense for the backup quarterback. And the hope is, to your point, Jay, that he has had a full week of practice. He's had more time to get ready for this game than any other so far. So he should look a little bit better than he has in the past, and that might be enough to get him the win.
We're going to talk about some one-on-one matchups in this game in 1 sec, but on Saturday night, we have Ohio State versus Wisconsin. You can watch it right here on WKYC. They have a post-game show with Ted Jr. for the Ohio State-Wisconsin game, so make sure you guys check that out on WKYC Saturday night. The post-game show also on WKYC. Guys, there are some fascinating one-on-one matchups in this game on Sunday between Seattle and the Cleveland Browns. And we're going to run through 4 of the matchups that I think are 4 to particularly watch, and you guys let me know who you think has the edge in these one-on-one matchups. So I'm going to give it to you. You guys tell me which side you think is the advantage. Let's start with a Browns DB versus Seattle receiver. DK Metcalf versus Denzel Ward. If you're picking between a one-on-one matchup here, who are you giving the advantage to?
Does anybody have Denzel?
I think it's really a tie.
I just think the size difference here is
Metcalf's
so
a little banged
great.
up, though.
He is. I don't know how healthy he's going to be. When I was doing this, I went to the fact that he's going to be completely healthy because how do you judge otherwise? You don't know. I just think as good as Denzel is, this is the kind of guy that creates a big problem for him.
I don't know,
because
man.
of the size mismatch. It's just
but
it's
Jamar Chase is a big receiver too.
I don't think he's as big as Metcalf.
Maybe not as big, but he's way more talented overall. And
Metcalf's a freak.
If Denzel Ward can play well with Jamar Chase, he should be able to play well against everybody. Now, he's been inconsistent at times in his career. He's been pretty consistent this year, it seems to me.
What would they have to hold him to for Ward to say he won the matchup? Under 50 receiving yards?
It's so hard for me to say because if he holds him to 42, but he scores on a 38-yarder to win the game,
right?
It's really hard. It's hard to put a number on it. But I'll tell you, that play Denzel made last week was elite.
Yeah, very good.
When he threw the pick, I forget who the intended receiver was, and Zach Jackson and I were sitting next to each other, and Zach said, "I didn't see Denzel either. Like, I can't believe." And then we saw the replay. It's like because he wasn't there. Yeah. Like he was open when he made the throw, and Denzel closed on him. He wasn't even on him, and saw.
Denzel took a step the wrong way.
Yeah,
and so I don't know if he was doing it intentionally to bait the quarterback. Move. I thought it was a bait move.
It was,
what it showed was incredible recovery speed and makeup speed.
A high percentage of interceptions are bad throws by the quarterbacks and the guys in the right place at the right time.
Yeah,
this was a play where.
He hawked it.
It wasn't a bad throw. It was just a great play.
It was a great play.
I like DK Metcalf, but listen, give me Denzel Ward. There is let's not get it twisted. There's a path to victory here. It's not like we playing. I mean, you got the same. I don't. Last time I checked, I don't think that the roster got worse between the time we played the 49ers, right?
Don't turn the ball over. That's
there it
the path to
is.
victory.
If
Well, you've
that's
lost
it.
Jerome Ford and maybe Jedrick Wills since then.
okay, well,
But you didn't have Batonio in that game.
some. Yes, you're correct. I'm looking at it like this, man. If that defense shows up like they did against the 49ers, I'm not worried about the Seahawks offense. They got some nice stuff. I love it.
Yeah.
But the 49ers are way more talented than Seahawks. I'll give me Denzel Ward. He had a nice pick last week. I got him. I got him shutting him down.
I agree with you, G. I'm going to go by a hair with Denzel.
By a hair,
Ward.
yeah, but I like
I think you're right too. Like if the Browns play great defense in this game, like they did against the Niners, they got a good chance to win. Yeah. If they play defense like they did against Indy, they're going down.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
All right, well, who's
It's a
next?
2-2 split there. If I had to pick, I'd actually go I think Denzel's a better cornerback than DK's a better receiver by a smidge. So, also some injury news. Jed Wills back at practice today. That's big.
Good.
Also, Jerome Ford back at practice today doing drills.
Yeah, he's not going to play.
Yeah, but I can't
I
imagine
don't think he
would
plays, but the fact he's already back and he was doing the tire drill, high
Yeah,
steps,
yeah.
not necessarily contact, but
Yeah.
It's a good
that's
sign.
It's
6
pressure
days
on the
removed,
ankle.
5
I
days
mean-
removed from a high ankle sprain. So that is
Hey,
It
very
was a
encouraging.
low-grade high ankle
Yeah.
sprain.
He's
is what
aware.
it
He's
reported.
he's aware of what's behind him. A lot of people want to see.
Yeah, he
I'm
could,
trying to
he
see
could lose
Pierre
his job in a
Strong.
hurry if Pierre Strong plays well.
Hey, listen,
or they
I
make a
do not
trade.
want that. Let me get out here and flex this ankle a little bit. It ain't even hurting like that.
All right,
It's
what's
interesting.
next?
Jed Wills, though, who did not practice yesterday, is back today. That is
So
big
he's
for the
gonna play.
Browns.
That's really good news.
Next individual one-on-one matchup. Let's switch sides of the ball here. How about Amari Cooper versus the 5th overall pick and rookie sensation, who Corbin Smith this week said was already the best player on the Seahawks defense?
Yeah.
Devin Witherspoon, the wily vet or the highly touted rookie? Which way you
Weatherspoon
going?
is, for those who care about such things, the #1 graded corner on PFF.
Yeah.
They got crazy corners. They got Woolen.
Woolen is really good,
Is
too.
nice. Witherspoon.
Not a good recipe with a young quarterback who's turnover prone.
But let me start this, man. Listen, don't get it twisted. You might be nice, but you still 12 and a half years old, Witherspoon. I didn't see Amari Cooper make people fall the last 2-3 weeks. He's the route god. He is the dude that tap dances on everybody. He's not fast, but if you're going to tell me that a rookie is going to shut Amari Cooper down, one of the best route runners, now I got a lot of respect for Witherspoon, but rookies are rookies. He about to get this work.
I'm gonna go. I'm with G again. I'm going slight edge for Cooper, but it's close because Witherspoon's really good.
I would take Witherspoon. I would have taken Denzel. You said it was 2-2. I'd take
Oh,
Denzel.
it wasn't 2-2.
Yeah, it was 3-1.
I'd
Oh, it's
take
3-1?
I'd
Oh,
take
Yeah, he
Denzel.
was leaning Denzel too.
My apologies.
But on this one, I would take Witherspoon over.
Yeah,
Amari.
this was really tough for me. Really tough for me. In the end, what it came down to was Amari's savvy, veteran route running might be a little too. Then I went back to this. Well, hell, last week Amari wasn't even. Did he play? I mean,
Well, that wasn't his fault.
no, I know it wasn't his fault.
That's
but
why I'm not blaming the wide receivers for
No,
anything.
but when you look at who's throwing the football,
yeah.
Who's throwing the flag? That's where Amari showed up.
yeah,
He
you
caught
are
the
kidding.
flag.
But so for me, I'm going Amari Cooper only because of the veteran to rookie thing. But with this quarterback
Yeah.
and his inability to get him the ball last week, I don't know that we should necessarily be expecting him to have a big game
If
this
you're
week.
asking who's more likely to have a better game this week, I'd actually say Witherspoon.
Yeah, that's the question.
Is that the question?
Who has
Yeah,
the edge
it's
in a
not-
one-on-one
it's
matchup?
not
with the edge in the
who wins the
one-on-one
matchup.
That's not the same
But
question.
the
to me,
quarterback
but
plays into the
quarterback-
receiver.
Yes, he
Yeah.
absolutely plays into
I mean, the
it.
quarterback. We rewatched G, Mike, and I right before the show.
I was going through. Can I set this up, Bull?
Yeah, go ahead.
So this morning, I watched the All-22 film twice each week.
Right.
And you watch it the first time, and you see some stuff. You watch it the second time, and you pick up some
See a lot more.
lot of nuances. And there was another play we could talk about later with P.J. Walker and something that happened to benefit him that he didn't do right. But whatever. And there was the play when P.J. Walker threw the interception, the arm punt down to the 3-yard line.
Yeah.
If you go back and watch the route Amari Cooper ran, it is one of the most beautiful, ballet-esque, make a defender fall. He had 50 yards of separation, essentially. And the ball was overthrown by...
not 50
not
yards.
50, but
What are you talking about? 50
he had
yards.
30 yards ahead of him and 10 yards on each side to the sideline.
Yeah, this should have been
But
an easy touchdown.
It
That
should
was
have
a
been,
terrible
yes.
throw by P.J. Walker. Easy
And
touchdown.
When you see it from that behind angle where you could really see the space and you don't see it on TV...
It's glaring when you look at it from that.
He's just always open, is my point.
So
Amari's always
Amari's
open.
going to the back pylon wide open, and Walker throws it to the middle of the field. So he's got to cut back.
I wonder if that was just a miscommunication where he thought he was going to cut one way and he.
I don't think so. I think it was just a terrible throw.
God, how can you miss by that much?
Yeah, I mean, it was.
I mean, that's not a terrible
awful.
throw. That's just what are you doing?
Yeah.
And that's where in this game, if the Browns want to win, I thought they did a good job of saying this last week. P.J. Walker has to hit a couple plays. He has to hit a couple plays. And he finally hit that play down the sideline to Elijah Moore, and it was just enough to get him where they need to go. In this game, P.J. Walker has to hit one or two throws to keep drives going, move the chains, or possibly get a touchdown on the road for them to get a win. So, that's a throw that they're going to have an opportunity to have next week or this week coming up Sunday.
But they can't be predictable. Like I'll go back. I'm not a big play caller, complaining guy, as you know. But watching the game last night, I'll defend Baker a little bit because I don't think he played particularly well in this game.
Oh, that last drive?
No. Well, that last drive was ridiculous. It took forever.
God, unbelievable.
But even for most of the game, until the game, for most of the first half, for the entire first half, basically, they tried to get their run going, and then they gave up on the run, and they were actually running decently early with what's his name, White. Is it White?
He had one decent run, but he was getting stoned on a lot of
runs. But here's the thing,
runs.
you know why? Because if you go back and look at their plays in the first half, they would go run, pass every time. They were completely predictable.
The other thing, too, that was weird about that game is their starting field position. It seemed like they were starting at the 2-yard line all night.
They did 3 times they started inside the 5 and 4 times inside the 10.
Yeah, that's a tough ask. Yeah. All right, what's next? Who's next?
Next up, we're going to the interior of the lines here. Joel Bitonio, an all-pro guard for the Browns, and Jaron Reed, one of the more underrated defensive tackles in football. He leads the Seahawks with 4 sacks this season and has had a sack in each of the past 2 games. But is that enough to edge out Joel Bitonio?
I would take Bitonio, but, it's obviously a step in the right direction. If Jed's practicing today, you would have to assume he's probably going to play. But we'll go back to what we said earlier. If he doesn't, that puts a lot of extra strain on Joel. Joel, I think, has not quite been to the level that we've expected of him at times this year. I'm like trying to keep from hiccuping. But I would still take I would take Joel in this. I would take Joel.
Browns are running from 160, 150 yards back-to-back weeks. This is another game where I think they'll still be able to run the ball well. They're going to need to run and stick to it. I'm going to go with Joel Bitonio. See, this is the catch-22 with the Browns, right? Because they've had so much quarterback turmoil, people forget the rest of the roster is nice. Like, you start going down position for position, you're like, well, okay, I'll take him, and I'll take him, and I'll take the Browns on this one too. And you start to see the depth and just at all these other littered positions, how they got guys that can get it done. In this case, I'm going with Joel Bitonio. I like Jaron Reed or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But, hey, let's go back. This isn't a DJ Reader. This isn't, this isn't some of the guys that the 49ers have in the middle. This is, he's a nice ball player. But give me Joel Bitonio specifically in the run game.
I'm actually going to go with – I agree with Mike. I think he's underrated. I think their whole D-line is underrated. Bitonio's not played well this year. And in particular in the run game, he's not been good. You see it week in and week out. The grades back it up. His run blocking grades have not been very good, and Reed's been really good. So I'm going to give a slight edge to Reed.
Yeah, I'm with you. Reed scares me. I think this matchup scares me. If you give me Joel Bitonio from any other year, but this year I got Bitonio, and I don't even really have to think about it. He just hasn't been that guy.
Nope.
I don't know if this is the year he gets old. I don't know if he's got some nagging injuries we don't know about.
Well, he had that surgery.
That's true. It just doesn't look like the same guy to me.
No.
I don't know. So it was close. Again, I wanted to compliment you. I think you did a
they're
really
all
good
close.
job because they were all very, very close. None of these were slam dunks for me. I could have gone either way.
Right, Mike?
We do have one more. I appreciate that, Jay. Last up, JOK, who's been way better than any of us could have imagined in Jim Schwartz's defense this season, taking that next step forward we had hoped and anticipated. And Kenneth Walker, who has quietly been one of the best running backs in football.
Been very good.
Which
I'm
side
going to go
gets
with
the
Kenneth
edge?
Walker. This is the part of the game that scares me a little bit because if there's one thing that you can say is that, the Browns got touched a little bit against the Ravens on the ground. Especially with the quarterback, Lamar Jackson. You take a look at this game, they got Kenneth Walker. Last game, I thought Taylor and Moss had a nice game, 1-2 punch, and I think Taylor really got his best game of the season. So this is a place where you come in and you say, okay, Seattle can run the football Kenneth Walker is physical, and I take my chances with the Browns on the ground rather than in the air because that leaves Myles Garrett trying to get off blocks and not pass rushing. I think Kenneth Walker definitely has it over JOK, especially because of the weight difference and the fact that he's just so physical to get on the ground.
I think it's another good matchup for Mike. I think I agree with Jay. All four of these are really close. JOK's had a tremendous season. I mean, he's by far, right, their most improved player this year.
Yeah.
I don't think that's even debatable.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd put Delpit up there.
Delpit's up there too. But
We thought Delpit had a level of play last year,
right,
but we'd already
late in the year he had started to improve.
JOK
some.
last year.
JOK was
hell,
awful. But he's
Quell
been
was calling
great,
for him to be released.
especially against the run. But I think Kenneth Walker is one of the 5 best running backs in the league. He is a load in that running
Yeah,
game.
this matchup really scares me.
Going for Kenneth Walker, but again, I think it's close.
Yeah, same thing. Going with Kenneth Walker. Not the ideal matchup you want for JOK. I think he's big enough that he's going to give him problems on making tackles on initial contact. I think this is a guy that you need help to bring down. So there'll be some gang tackling.
Well,
Go ahead.
To that point, that's why it's hard for me really to look at this as a one-on-one.
Right.
Yeah, I don't look at it
Because
as a
I don't
one-on-one.
think this is really on JOK to get him down.
No, but when I was weighing it in my mind, I said, okay, so what if there's 10 open field contacts between JOK, where he's the guy in front of him, and Kenneth Walker? I just have Walker winning more of those than
that's
JOK.
fair.
Yeah.
They have to.
Yeah, Dalvin Tomlinson's the guy who's going to be responsible
Now,
for it the most.
if those guys get arms on him and slow him down, then I like JOK.
Yeah, well, I mean, Derrick Henry's the biggest back they faced, and he was mostly being stopped by the Browns' front.
He was, absolutely.
Yeah.
So if that
Penetration.
continues,
Yeah.
then he's got a huge advantage because he's not coming at you at full speed.
Right.
You need to change the line of scrimmage and be on their side of the line of scrimmage so that he doesn't get a 2-3 yard run downhill and now he's in the secondary. They can stop him like they did Derrick Henry before he gets going. That's how you got to stop big backs.
Who are you going with, Jason?
Kenneth Walker.
Kenneth Walker.
A little Kenneth Walker nugget for you guys before we get to my 5 stats.
Is he a
you
Michigan
need to
State
know.
guy?
He was a Michigan State
thought
guy.
so.
49% of his rushing yards this season, 49% have come on stretch plays beyond the outside tackle. So with an extra blocker, he does not run
I wouldn't have
up
guessed
the
that.
middle with nearly as much efficiency as he does outside. What that equates to is he breaks a ton of tackles. 63% of his missed tackles have come outside.
And
so when
that's-
he gets on non-defensive linemen,
Yeah.
very difficult to bring down. But 222 of his 450 rushing yards this season have come on stretch plays outside of the most eligible tackle.
That's interesting. Yeah, that also doesn't bode well for JOK.
Linebackers and safeties got to do their job.
Yes, they do. Yeah. Okay, you doing a read here?
We
before
got to
you do
read,
your
and it's time for the 5
5-piece?
stats that fit that weren't Kenneth Walker. Before we do that, we got to remind the good people that FanDuel is the #1 sportsbook in America. It is unquestioned, undeniable, and it is our favorite sportsbook as well. Right now, brand new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there is literally no better time to get in on the action than this exact minute. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and so much more. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL and an official partner of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show.
And
By
we
the way,
should-
Mike,
we-
go ahead.
go ahead. No,
I
go
was
ahead.
going to say FanDuel does look-ahead lines, which
Yeah,
I love
beyond
too.
this weekend?
They are Browns are a 3.5-point dog this week in Seattle. Looking ahead to next week, as of today, the Browns are a touchdown favorite.
Wow.
Actually, a 7.5-point favorite at home against the Cardinals.
Ooh, that's a big spread. I just wanted to quickly remind all of our viewers, if you have a winning ticket on FanDuel this weekend, we know there's going to be a lot of betting action between college football tomorrow and then, of course, the NFL on Sunday. Screenshot it, take a picture of it, send it to us. We would love to feature your winnings on FanDuel on our show, the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. So win and get your ticket mentioned on the air.
All right, guys, well, here are the 5 things you need to know, 5 stats you need to know heading into this game against the Seahawks. And before I give you the first stat, I have a question for you guys. Where do you think the 4-man pass rush unit for the Browns of Myles Garrett, Zadarius Smith, Ogbo, and Dalvin Tomlinson ranks among the league's best 4-unit pass rush groups?
It ranks in what based on
Like,
what?
In
1
terms,
to
in terms
32.
of pressure rate, in
Yeah.
terms of overall
Oh,
pressure
no,
rate.
you didn't say the stat.
No,
Russ, I'm asking you first. Where do you think
he
they
wants
rank
us to
before I
rank
show you
them?
the
Like,
stats?
are they second? Are
Do
they
you think
26?
that
In pressure rate?
Is that four-man pressure group, or that four-man pass rush group of Miles, Za'Darius, Ogbo, and Tomlinson?
Yeah.
There are 86 qualified four-man pass rush units in the NFL with at least 15 snaps together against.
I see what you're
opponent.
saying. So all the different combinations.
Of all
Got
the
it.
combinations,
Yeah.
that four, where do you think it ranks in the NFL in terms of overall pressure rate?
2.
I would
Top
say
3.
very high.
Top 3 to 5.
2.
I'll say 11.
He's asking this because we're going to be surprised.
Right.
So
And
Bull,
Bull is actually damn near spot on.
yeah.
They rank 12th in the NFL.
He's not
Means you
asking
can
us
take
this
it.
if they're top 5.
Right.
Yeah, so
know.
I went
walked
into
right
this
into that
thinking
one.
this is so dangerous. It seems like every time these four in particular rush together
Yeah.
to get to the quarterback, and they do at a
Now,
very high rate.
I mean, 11's good
The
at
difference
80
thing
something.
is it's not like it's 11 out of 32.
Yeah.
11 out of 86 is in the top 15%.
Well, it's 12, but yes, it's 12 out of 86.
12 out of 86.
Their overall pressure rate, and this is what is crazy, Steve, you could take it. They're getting to the quarterback at a 46.43% pressure rate with that four-man pass rush group.
God, who's number 1 in that?
Yeah, you ready for this?
Yeah.
In Dallas, Micah Parsons, Lawrence, Armstrong, and Dante Fowler in 19 pass rush opportunities have a 90.1 pressure rate with that four-person unit.
Now,
That is 30 points higher than everyone else.
Yeah, but that's also a pretty small sample size.
Well, it's 28 for
I
this
know.
Cleveland
I mean,
group
we
versus
have
19.
almost 9 more
Yeah.
with this foursome. But that's astounding. They're getting home that
Yeah,
frequently.
it's absurd.
There could be some context missing. Maybe that's a group of 4 that only comes in on 3rd and long situations.
Yeah, well,
You know what I mean?
Ideally, you're putting your best. That's
Your
when
best
you're putting
four.
your best
It's-
4 out there.
It's essentially
But
your
what-
NASCAR
but-
package versus other teams'
Right,
NASCAR
but to Bull's
package.
point, what might be different in that is it depends on when in the game that happens too.
It could
you
be
know,
late in the game when you know they're
When the
passing.
sample size
Yeah.
is this small,
Yeah.
but still, 12 is, you know.
Yeah, I think that's good.
12 out of 86 is good, but my bottom line of seeing that is I think this unit has been good. 46.6% pressure, we'll take that.
I'll
It still has a
definitely
chance
take
to
that.
be even better. And against the Seattle offensive line that is playing without, potentially, they have the same situation as Jed Wills. One of their tackles has not practiced this week. He may
Oh,
not
really?
He may not be on the field on Sunday.
Mike, let me
There's
ask,
a chance to get a lot of pressures on Geno Smith.
let me ask this. So the sack rate was 7%, just over 7%
Yes.
for ours. What was the sack rate for Dallas's?
It was like 17%. It wasn't actually that high.
Yeah.
There are some that have, because it's 15 or more snaps together, some have played 70 snaps together, some have played 16.
Yeah.
It's not the exact
You know,
translation, but
yeah.
at the end of the day, that four-man group for the Browns is getting to the quarterback, or at least affecting their timing half the time. Which
And that's
is
what
pretty
you want.
damn good.
Yeah, that's
Pretty
really
damn
good, especially without the extra rusher.
Next
Okay,
up,
good stat.
we talked about Devin Witherspoon
Yeah.
and how Bull mentioned he is the highest-graded cornerback in the NFL, according to PFF. Second straight year, by the way, PFF has had a rookie cornerback as the highest graded. Sauce Gardner was next year. He's not just good. This dude's stupid good. His last 3 games against the Bengals, after being called out by DK Metcalf, his own teammate, saying he's going to shut down Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow targeted Jamar Chase 3 times in that game, allowed 1
That
catch
is
for 3
incorrect.
yards, and had 2 pass breakups.
No, with
That is against
Witherspoon in coverage.
Yes,
Yeah.
with Witherspoon in coverage, yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Against Arizona, the entire game, any receiver, the Cardinals threw his way twice. They attempted 41 pass attempts. Wow. They threw his way twice. He gave up 0 receptions.
I'm glad I
Against
took Witherspoon
Carolina,
over Amari.
against Carolina, they threw it at him 13 times. That was the Andy Dalton game when he threw 56 passes. They threw it 13 times. He allowed 5 receptions for 31 yards. 13 targets, 5 receptions. His 7 combined interceptions and pass breakups this year, it's 3rd in the NFL. This dude's really good already, and I cannot wait to see him versus Amari Cooper. That is must-see TV in my mind.
It is going to be a good matchup. That might be the matchup of the game now that you think about it, because we know that without Amari Cooper, the Browns receivers have been pretty anemic.
Yeah.
And if they've got a shutdown corner, and it looks like that's exactly what they have here in Witherspoon, hell, some offensive coordinators just decide when corners are this good, okay, so we're not throwing to his
side
quadrant.
of the field.
We're not throwing to his side of the field. We haven't seen a guy like that in a while in the league, but he seems to be trajectory going to that spot. That's crazy.
I want to see how good he is when it's 2nd and 2. ain't no corner good at 2nd and 2. You could get run, you could get pass, you could get play action, you could get screen, you could get a lot, you could get draw. Listen, the Browns, hey, you know what's great? I love the fact that the Browns' offensive passing game is so hamstrung that I don't even have to worry about it. I don't got to rack my mind about who getting yards or whatever. They need to be running rudimentary plays and keeping this team on the field as long as possible with sustained drives. That's the way you win this game, and that's pretty much, to me, the only path to winning this game. It's time of possession, winning turnovers, and you got to punch. You got to get 7 instead of 3s.
They really need a clean turnover-free game.
Yes,
and they haven't had one
do.
all year. This
has to be clean.
On the road in that environment. You have got to hold on to the ball and not turn it over.
Where do the Browns rank in terms of turnovers? Not turnover margin, Mike, but just turnovers.
I can tell you, Steve, real quick,
they've gotta
if we
be
go
top 3 in the
to
league.
63, if you go to 63, we have those stats. And Steve will pull it up. He'll take it full so we can see.
very
They have 14 giveaways on the season, which, according to ESPN, if
28.
you sort that by most turnovers in the NFL, that would put the Browns. Also, this is bad job out of ESPN. They don't put numbers next to their rankings, so I have to count.
Terrible.
So I apologize for counting on the air. But the most giveaways in the league, well, it's easy. It's second most. That was easy to count.
I think you can click on the stat and then
it sorts it, but like
them.
it's easy when they're 31st.
Yeah.
But if they're
Well,
in the
who's
middle,
the only team that's had more turnovers?
the Raiders with 15.
So they're second worst in the league.
And let's face it, we've had a couple of balls that.
Well, I'm sure
everybody
has.
probably has,
You
but
can't be fast and loose with the ball. Like
I mean,
this game is going to be like the two things that will kill you: turnover and holding penalties on big plays.
It's amazing. Like, you think about this. The Browns are 4-2. They've gotten the worst quarterback play in the league, and they're the second most turnovers, and yet they're somehow 4-2.
It's a defense.
It's a miracle.
But it wasn't last week. Last week the defense got turnovers.
what was so impressive about last week is they knew they had to step up in other areas because they were giving up so many points. And that last drive, man.
When people say
That's it.
When people say it wasn't the defense, oh no, it was the defense.
They still got a defensive
You
score.
still got Miles Garrett.
Yeah.
You still got.
Right, but the defense didn't play great last week.
Right. It wasn't the level
They made
of
big
previous
plays,
week.
but they didn't play great.
Miles made one play that took 3 points off the board for them, and another play that put 7 points on the board. That's a 10-point swing.
I hear you. You still give up 38 points to the Colts.
Right.
You know,
it's kind of like the bend but don't break.
Well, that's not bend that don't break.
No, here's what. No, not that.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is they gave up a lot of points, but it wasn't enough to break them. The offense, surprisingly, stood up and did enough.
Yeah.
I mean,
But how are they going to? The reason that this game is a bad matchup for me is because that was a friendly crowd that they were playing.
Yeah.
There were a lot of Browns fans in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
There's going to be nothing friendly about what happens in Seattle. No. And that's what scares me. It's going to be so hard for them to operate offensively that with a backup quarterback and a really good defensive backfield for Seattle.
Miles was actually worth 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, he was.
You're right. You're right. He added another touchdown in there.
Well, no, he took the 3 from them, and they got 3 off the block. Mm-hmm. So that was
but didn't he have another? Didn't he force 2 turnovers?
He did.
He did.
And what happened on the other one?
I don't remember. The one was in the end zone. So he took 3 away, added 3 is 6. The end zone is 13. The strip sack in the end zone.
Yes, ultimately they won the game because of defense and the kicker.
I'm just replaying
but the
it in my
defense
head.
didn't play great.
It's one of the best. It's one of the best individual defensive performances
Miles
we've
was
seen
worth
in a long
13
time.
points by himself. He was worth 13 points.
He's going to have to do that again.
And then the kicker got 18, including extra points. So they got it was between the kicker and Myles Garrett. That was
the offense did just enough to win.
Yeah.
Speaking of the offense, and we talked about Jed Wills earlier. Well, there have been 2 unsung heroes on this offensive line the last couple weeks I want to give a shout out to real quick. In the last 3 games, Ethan Pochich, the center, has had 92 pass blocking snaps. He's given up 0 pressures and 0 sacks.
Wow.
DeJuan Jones in those same times, man, 3 games, 123 pass blocking snaps, 4 pressures, just 1 sack. You combine those 2 together, that is 215 opportunities to allow a pressure and or a sack. Those 2 have combined to allow 4 pressures and 1 sack and 215. They have been the unsung heroes on the offensive line. They deserve a little bit of kudos.
Shout out Bill Callahan
for what they've
too.
done.
Yeah. And DeJuan still has some work to do in the run game, but I talked all summer about it was maturity issues, and that is what allowed him to, or what forced him to fall as far as he did. Hey, credit to him, man, for putting in the work and for coming as far as he has, as fast as he has. The pass blocking obviously is there. He does it at a high level. He knows his assignments now. We talked about how much Wyatt had to sort of babysit him early on. I don't notice that nearly as much during these games anymore. He's really come a long way.
Just project him out 5 years, guys. When none of this is coming at him at warp speed anymore, where he's familiar with all the blocking schemes, pass and run.
Yeah.
He gets more confidence, probably stronger. This pick might end up being one of those picks, just like we talked about Puka Nacua. Like when you can hit on a guy late in the draft,
MJ Emerson.
It can It can erase the fact that you gave up 3 number ones,
right?
Because he's playing like a much higher draft pick right now.
Absolutely,
and Emerson
than
as
a
well.
4th round rookie. Yeah.
So
he still has to get better in the run blocking, and maybe that's his size. I don't know, but you would know. He's such a massive man, and it's such a different run blocking to pass blocking. Pass blocking, he's there.
Yeah.
Run blocking, he's got to get better.
Yeah. Right.
But
by the way, in the PFF grades, out of let's see how many total guys. Out of 74 eligible tackles, he's 21st in pass blocking.
It's crazy.
That's really good.
Really good.
I mean, he's been excellent. You can't ask for more than he's done as a rookie.
Nope. He's
Especially
a home run pick.
He's been 100% of what you could ask for, and then about 10,000% on top. All right, next up, we keep talking about the Seattle crowd, and there's a good reason. The Lumen Field advantage, the Quest Field as it used to be, the 12th man, is legit. This stadium, which has had a bunch of names, currently holds 2 world records for the loudest outdoor stadium at 2 different individual events.
Does it really?
137.6 decibels, which, according to Wikipedia, and I'm not an ear doctor or whatever, is like someone shooting a gun in your ear. Is the same sound that. So this is a very loud stadium. In week 3 against Carolina, with Andy Dalton at quarterback, it's not a rookie, with Andy Dalton.
Ooh, why would you blame Andy Dalton? It's the offensive line's fault.
Well, I'm just saying it's not a rookie quarterback. They had 8 false starts. That's the most false starts caused in any stadium since 2011 with the Bears. The last time the Browns won in Seattle was 1989. Do you know who the quarterback was?
Bernie Kosar.
Who's coming up in our 12:30
And by the way,
WKYC
you know who
channel.
was born in 1989?
Taylor Swift.
And Bernie and Taylor were hanging out.
Her new album is being re-released. Anybody know the title of it?
1989.
Good job.
I just saw that on social media this morning.
Good job.
So
Talking
point
up on my
being,
Swifties.
it's going to be a crazy crowd, and it's going to be imperative for P.J. Walker and Kevin Stefanski to be on the same page.
Imagine
to
that,
operate
guys.
that offense.
A gun going off in your ear is the same decibel
Right
level?
next to your ear, yeah.
I mean,
That's according to Wikipedia. That is a Wikipedia stat. So I'm giving y'all my sources, my cited sources.
I'm glad you did because
I wonder where they take the reading from, because it can't be as loud on the field as it is in the crowd.
I don't know. Maybe there's multiple meters and they average it.
When you listen, you go to some of these college stadiums.
It's loud on the field, bowl.
You
Like
can't hear nothing.
And A&M was one of the loudest that I've ever heard.
And I used to work on the sideline shooting the game.
I know.
Bowl, you could hear.
You should wear earplugs. Did you wear earplugs?
We do, yeah.
Yeah, no, they give them
do,
out.
yeah.
They used to give them out. I don't know if they still do.
And they shoot the cannon on the field, and that was the worst when A&M would score.
Well, it
but
scares the hell out of you.
Earplugs were a necessity if you're shooting on the field.
Yeah, and
LSU was the same way.
Yeah, LSU at night is different.
The
Yeah,
swamp,
the swamp was like that.
Crazy.
You know what's loud?
Rocky Top
Was awful, by the way. I had to leave. I was taking my son and I left. We went a couple of years ago. He was young. We went to see monster trucks at the Q.
Oh, yeah, those things put out some noise.
So loud.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
And, Mikey, the crazy thing about this game.
I didn't have you as a monster truck guy, by the way.
Not at all, but he was interested in going, so I
We'll
took
be
him.
going to everything.
What's AG?
When you look at the tackles that you have, that's the biggest thing is when you're trying to play a conservative game, you're trying to stay above the sticks. The things that kill you are the play came in late. They got to get the plays in quicker. You can't wait till 3, 4, 2, 1. No. It's substitutions. You can't have holding. Like if you got holding penalties or false start penalties, that's you're 2nd and 5,
dead. Yep.
and you're done. You're cooked if you get one penalty. So a lot of the crowd noise causes these penalties, and it's just difficult to really play a game where you got a quarterback who needs to stay above the sticks. That's going to be a big part of this game.
And that fan base is smart, and they know it's a rookie quarterback, and they know that they need to bring extra noise.
Not a rookie quarterback.
Well, an
Inexperienced.
inexperienced quarterback.
Yeah.
To me, he's a rookie quarterback.
All right, last
Sorry.
stat here, guys. And G, you just talked about the tackles. This was interesting. We talk about Seattle having a really good pass rush, and they sacked the Giants quarterbacks 11 times in that game. Right now, they rank second in the NFL in sacks per game with 3.8. Now, I know you can't take a game out of the equation, but just for comparison's sake, I wanted to know what that number would be like if you took the 11 sacks out against the Giants, and it drops down to 2.4 sacks per game, which is 19th in the NFL. That number 19 is way more indicative of the pressures, the quarterback hits, and the quarterback knockdowns Seattle gets. Throughout the entire NFL, they are 21st in the league in QB hurry rate and 16th in overall pressure rate, despite ranking second in total sacks or sacks per game because of that Giants game. So it is a good pass rush, and I totally understand you can't take one game out.
If you took every team's best game out, then where are the rankings? I know that their best game was far superior than anybody else's.
I totally get that. I'm just saying if you take the one, because they had 0, 2, 3, 4, 2, and 11.
Yeah, 11 is so outrageous.
One is a little out of the
so
equation.
I think a better thing would be to cut it in half or something like that. Where would they rank?
Well, I could do that right now. So if that cuts in half, that goes 11 to
go 5.5.
So they would average 2.7, which would be 14th in the NFL. So middle of the pack, which lines up with their pressure rate, their QB knockdown rate, and their QB hit rate. So essentially what I'm saying is they are a good pass rush. They do generate pressure. They do not generate pressure at the rate that the second team in sacks per game would indicate.
Is the pressure rate that you have there including the Giants game?
It is, yes.
Okay.
You watched the Giants game. I watched it. Most people did. It was to the point where you just knew before the play started it was going to be a sack.
Well, what's funny is the Giants' O-line's played better since then.
They have.
With Tyrod Taylor. Wasn't that the last Daniel Jones game?
No, Jones played one more. But
who was the left tackle for the Giants?
Well, he's not playing anymore.
No, I know. But he was in
I've
Seattle.
Erased his name from my memory.
You're smart to do so because they were showing the isolations of his one-on-one on all of the sacks, and I think his family probably had to turn the channel. That's how bad it was. It was so embarrassingly bad. There was a Steelers offensive lineman that graded out this year at 3.4.
Dan Moore, right?
Yeah. I can't imagine what was that guy's PFF
I'll look
grade
it up
that week.
I don't know. I'll look it up right now.
I mean, he gave up one after another. It reminded me of the Steelers and James Hudson from a couple of years ago when they just were giving him no chip help.
Yeah.
He was out there on an island by himself, and they just kept running the same thing. That's what the Giants were doing against the Seahawks.
The Browns have to run play action. And I'm going to tell you, all year, you go back and watch these all-22s, the Browns have one of the worst times in the world passing off just regular stunts. So two guys will follow one guy and the other guy comes loose. They don't communicate. One guy takes a guy you thought your man had him, he comes loose. And P.J. Walker struggles consistently when they do the mug technique. The mug technique is just basically everybody's at the line of scrimmage before the snap, and at the snap, some guys come and drop out. So he's going to have to diagnose that, and they're going to have pressures where they're moving around and stunting with the defensive linemen.
And they're going to see that a lot.
You're going to see that every third down. And I think in this game, Kevin Stefanski can't be going 5 wide. He just can't do it. They don't have the tackles to keep up with that pressure. It's going to be hard to hear silent snap counts and different things like that. And P.J. Walker doesn't diagnose the plays quick enough to understand, okay, the pressure's coming from here, I'm going to go right where he left. He's just not able to do that at this point. So they got to find some ways to be able to throw the football and still protect a little bit.
Yeah, could be tough.
We're going to read some Super Chats here, and today's Super Chats are brought to us by Jace Medical. Everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. That's why Jace Medical offers the Jace Case. 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use, giving you peace of mind so you're not just hoping that you have access to medication in an emergency. Jace Medical makes sure you have that medication in hand. And it's simple. They handle everything from the online evaluation, a licensed pharmacy, medication delivery, and ongoing consultation and care. So don't get caught unprepared. Get $20 off these life-saving antibiotics today from Jace Medical by using promo code LOCKEDON at jacemedical.com. That is JASE medical.com. Real quick, we only got 3 Super Chats, and then we're going to send everybody off to the WKYC note on a high note. 30 seconds on why the Browns are going to beat the Seahawks this week. But first, M. Vine says, Haslam has a responsibility in this situation. Dontavius Winston said, why did the Browns give up on DTR so fast? He was put in an impossible situation against arguably the best team in the NFL. DTR should be starting. He's 100% better than PJ. Rakisan1187 says, put Denzel on Lockett, MJ on DK. I'm assuming they're going to switch up matchups. They don't
probably
really have
will.
Denzel follow anybody. And Hyper Frosty, send us your email. We're going to send you our finals. Guys, we have 3 minutes for a little sunshine and rainbow, so 30 seconds each. Let's go around the horn. Why should the Browns and their fans feel good about this game on Sunday?
Well, you should feel good because the Browns are 4-2, and even if you lose, you're still 4-3, and you got Arizona next week. And I think even with PJ Walker or DTR or whoever, they'll beat Arizona at home. So I'm very confident that worst case scenario, the Browns are going to be 5-3. I'm hopeful they're going to make a move at quarterback. In terms of this game specifically, they're only a 3.5-point dog. It's a tough place to play on the road. I'm not going to lie, I'm leaning towards the Seahawks winning this game, but the Browns could definitely win this game. It's close enough to a toss-up. I mean, you get 3 points for home field, right? So Vegas thinks these are even teams. FanDuel thinks these are even teams. If the Browns can get back to the defense we've seen for most of the year, locking down that running game, just being totally disruptive, then they'll have a chance to win this game. That's it. Don't turn the ball over.
Yeah, it's an NFC game, so the importance diminishes a little bit. It's not that big of a deal if you lose this. It won't kill you in the AFC in terms of tiebreakers and all that. And more importantly, this is a team that's starting to play with a little bit of a swagger. And they've won the last 2 weeks, even though they haven't played at their best. But there's a confidence in there that in the past it was always they're going to find a way to lose the game. Well, the players are starting to believe they're going to find a way to win the game. And yeah, they got bailed out a little bit by the officials. But, you know, I was talking to guys in the locker room after the game and felt like we just beat San Francisco. Why can't we go to Seattle and and win at Seattle? So, do I think they're going to win? No, I don't. But I don't think it's going to be a blowout. And certainly there's still reasons for optimism.
Well, listen, just go look at what Jim Schwartz did after the Ravens game. Ravens game didn't do too much. They looked vulnerable on the run and vulnerable on the ground. But guess what they did? They corrected it. They got to the San Francisco 49ers, and they played one of the best defensive games this year in the NFL. If they know that they can play up to that level and have that same type of turnover process and same type of energy on defense, they can beat Seattle at Seattle. And I think the Browns have a good chance. It's not a blowout. They got a chance to win this game.
All right, for me, it's defense, and that's pretty much it. You know, I think when you've got this kind of a defense that played as well as they did against San Francisco, they're going to have to find a way to do that again. Seattle's not as good as San Francisco. I understand that this one's on the road in a real difficult environment, but like Bull said, not that you ever look at it going into the game as house money, but they're 4-2. Even if they lose this one, you've got Arizona upcoming. We're going over to Channel 3. That's where we'll give our pre-written headlines and our predictions for Sunday's game against Seattle. We'll see you there.